Every gilded cage is built with walls of comfort. The only question is what you're paying for them.
So, what if the entire playbook for modern influence, everything from social media trends to big political campaigns, was actually written almost a century ago? That's what we're looking at today. We're diving into Edward Bernays' 1928 classic, Propaganda. And let me tell you, this book is so ahead of its time, it feels like it didn't just predict the future, it literally invented it.
And Bernays, he pulls zero punches. That line right there, that's not buried on page 50. That is the very first sentence of his book. Just let that sink in for a second. He's not whispering some dark secret here. He is shouting from the rooftops that manipulating the masses isn't just something that happens. He's saying it's an essential, even necessary part of how a democracy is supposed to work. Right from page 1, he was defining a whole new reality.
So if that's the reality, who's actually in charge? Well, this is where Bernays introduces this pretty wild concept he calls the invisible government. He's basically arguing that in any real, functioning democracy, the people we elect, they aren't the only ones pulling the strings. So who are these invisible rulers? According to Bernays, you shouldn't picture some shadowy cabal in a smoke-filled room. Nope. For him, they're the people who get how society works, who understand our psychology, and who use that knowledge to shape public opinion. They're the ones who, in his words, pull the wires which control the public mind. They're the real power brokers, shaping what we think, what we like, and what we buy, all from behind the curtain. Now, I know what you're thinking. Invisible government sounds pretty sinister, right? Like a conspiracy theory. But here's where Bernays' argument gets really interesting, and maybe a little unsettling. He claims this isn't a flaw in the system, it's a feature. He saw it as the only logical and necessary way to keep a complex society from falling apart. For millions of people to cooperate, he believed you had to have this kind of unseen leadership.
But why? I mean, isn't the whole point of a democracy for everyone to make up their own mind? Why would this be necessary? Well, Bernays' answer to that question really gets to the core of his whole philosophy.
His argument really starts with his diagnosis of the modern world. And remember, this is back in the 1920s. He looked around and saw society just drowning in complexity. You've got countless groups, countless ideas, countless interests, all screaming for attention. His logic was, look, if every single citizen had to independently research every single political, economic, and social question before forming an opinion, we'd be totally paralyzed. Society would just grind to a halt. His words for it, the result would be nothing but confusion.
And to show you what he means by this chaos, he actually lists some of the real organized groups in America at the time. You've got your standard stuff, like the Anti-Cigarette League. But then you also have the Fox Breeders Association. And get this, the National Association of Egg Case and Egg Case Filler Manufacturers. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Every single one of these groups has its own agenda. How on earth do you get them all to move in a coherent direction?
And that's exactly where the invisible government comes in. Its job isn't to silence all these voices. Instead, it works through them. It provides the leadership and the propaganda to cut through all that noise, to narrow down our choices, and to organize what Bernays calls the group mind.
Now, obviously, propaganda is a really loaded word. When we hear it, our minds immediately go to some dark, deceptive place. But Bernays wanted to reclaim that word. He introduces this idea of a new propaganda, something he saw as totally different.
To him, propaganda is just a tool. Think of it like a hammer. A hammer is not good or evil, right? It's just a thing for hitting nails. He argued that propaganda is the same. It's just the organized effort to spread an idea. Whether it's good or bad depends entirely on the cause it's serving and whether the message is true. For him, it wasn't just legitimate, it was absolutely essential for modern life.
So what does this new propaganda actually look like? Well, the old way was like a direct assault. You, buy this, now. The new way is so much more subtle. It doesn't sell you the thing directly. It creates the desire for the thing. It engineers the situation so that you're the one who walks up to the salesman and says, please, sell me this.
And this is where the psychological genius of it really comes in. This new propaganda doesn't bother trying to persuade people one by one. No, it targets the whole group by tapping into mass psychology, our shared habits, our emotions, our deep-seated impulses. The goal is to touch a collective nerve, to create an almost automatic response by appealing to motives we don't even consciously know we have.
So how does this actually work in the real world? Bernays gives this amazing case study that lays it all out.
Let's talk about Velvet.
Okay, so here was the problem. Velvet was completely out of style. It was dead, and the manufacturers were going broke. They knew that just running a bunch of ads saying, hey, buy Velvet, would be a complete failure. The public just didn't want it, so they had to make them want it.
So check out this playbook. It's a masterclass. Instead of talking to the public, they created a Velvet fashion service to talk to the tastemakers. They went right to the top, to the big-name fashion designers in Paris. They got them to start using Velvet in their new clothes. Then, they paraded those prestigious Paris designs in front of American buyers and fashion influencers. And for the final step, the press amplified the whole thing, writing articles about this hot, new Velvet trend as if it just magically happened.
And the result? It worked perfectly. Pretty soon, newspapers were reporting that fashion had suddenly, almost whimsically, veered to Velvet. They created massive demand, not by asking for it, but by engineering an environment where Velvet was suddenly the coolest, most desirable thing. And the best part? No one felt manipulated. They just felt like they were in style.
Now, this kind of sophisticated psychological work couldn't be done by just any old ad man. Bernays argued that it required a whole new kind of professional, a specialist in the art and science of shaping the public mind.
He called this new professional the Public Relations Counsel. But the key to his definition is that it's a two-way street. It's not just about pushing a message out to the public, it's also about interpreting the public back to the client, advising them on how they need to change to line up with what people actually want.
And Bernays knew how much power this role held, so he tried to lay out a kind of ethical code for it. He said the council should refuse to work with clients who are dishonest or bad for society. He insisted that their job was not to fool or hoodwink the public, but to create genuine mutual understanding.
Ultimately, Bernays didn't see this as just another marketing trick. He saw the Public Relations Council as a permanent and absolutely essential part of modern democracy. They were the professional force bridging the huge gap between powerful institutions and the public they needed to serve. And that really brings us right up to today, doesn't it? When you read a book from 1928 that feels this current, it leaves you with a huge question. In our world, a world of social media algorithms, micro-targeting, and a global influencer economy, has Bernays' invisible government just gotten stronger? Are the tools he pioneered now more powerful, more precise, and more pervasive than he ever could have dreamed? It's definitely something to think about.